In this video, we'll be looking at customizing the Liferay Commerce store. In Liferay Commerce, it's possible to create a custom order validator. An order validator looks at whether or not we can add a certain item to the cart and whether the cart can begin the checkout process. To create a custom order validator, we need to annotate the class for OSGI registration. Then we need to review the Exchange Order Validator interface and implement the appropriate methods. To complete the order validator, we need to add validation logic for adding a product to the cart and proceeding to the checkout. And finally, we need to add language keys to language.properties. We can have a brief look at an order validator we've already created. So up the top here, we can see that we've set some OSGI properties. So we've set our Commerce Order Validator key, and we've set our Commerce Order Validator priority. In the event there are multiple order validators, this sets which should come first in a chain of order validators. Here we've implemented the Commerce Order Validator interface. Here you can see that we've added our getKey method and we've created a unique key for this particular order validator. In this method, validate, this is where we validate whether an item can be added to the cart or proceed through checkout. For this example, we have some logic that entails checking whether a product can be fitted by a certain product type, so whether those two product types can exist at the same time in the cart. So this method returns a Boolean, returns an object, Commerce Order Validator result, and as you can see, Commerce Order Validator result takes a Boolean and a string. It's possible to add a custom checkout step to Liferay Commerce. As you can see in the image on the right, you can see step number 3 here is a custom example step. So this is where you may want to ask the user for some more information at this point in the checkout process. Maybe you want to inform them of certain conditions associated with their order. So there are many different reasons why we can have an extended checkout process like this. So like all the extension points, we need to annotate the class for OSGI registration, give the checkout step name a unique value, indicate how far into the process the custom step will appear by defining the commerce checkout step order value. Then we need to review the commerce checkout step interface and make sure we've implemented all the appropriate methods. In order to complete the checkout step, we need to configure the servlet context for the module because we're rendering some JSP. Then we need to implement the render method, and we need to add business logic to the process action. So when we hit next, if we need something to happen or submit some data to the database, we need to do it. We need to handle how that action takes place. And we need to add a JSP, which was going to display something in the step. And then finally, we need to add a language key to language.properties. So as you can see here, I've got a pretty vanilla checkout step. We have some OSGI properties here. Here you can see where we set where the checkout step is in order. So whether it appears as number 3 or perhaps we want it before a certain shipping method. And we also have our checkout step name, which must be unique. So here we've just made a checkout step name called car service booking. We also have our get label, which is actually the name that gets displayed here above the checkout step number. We can say whether we want the checkout step to be active or not. In this particular piece of logic, I check the commerce order for a certain order item. If the certain order item is a particular product type, then we activate the checkout step. So essentially you can see that you may have different checkout steps for different orders, and that can be assessed as the user enters the checkout process. We've got a couple of other methods here. We have isVisible. So in this instance, we could have a checkout step that performs some logic between two checkout steps, but it's not actually visible to the user and no action is required by them. Here we have our render method. And here we set the servlet's context in order to be able to use our render method. We also have our show controls. So perhaps we don't want to be able to hit next and previous in our checkout step, and it's set by a Boolean here. Knowledge check. The commerce checkout step order value indicates how far into the checkout process a custom checkout step will appear. The custom order validator interface must be reviewed before customizing order validation.